What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jimmy Talk. So this is quite the important video. It's going to be a little bit philosophical. So I want you to stick with me here and put the subtitles on. Go replay something if you don't understand it because it's very important. But I want to talk about leadership. And I think that today's world puts too much emphasis on leadership as something like a business or a career skill. But the real meaning of leadership, in my opinion, has been lost. True leadership is not about running a company or giving orders at work or being like a military general or something about that. It's actually about leading a family. It is often the daily unseen efforts of any man who puts his family's needs above his own and works to build a legacy that will last far beyond his own lifetime, his own generation. His main job is to protect, provide, and prepare a foundation for the future. Now, true leadership starts with just one basic, simple biological and spiritual reality, and that is men and women are different. They have different strengths, they have different purposes that fit together. These roles are complementary, and they're designed for different but equally vital roles. A man's natural role with his natural spirit is to create, protect, and bring order to the world around him. But when he focuses this energy, that is when he becomes a leader. I'll say it again. You're going to become a leader if you create, protect, and bring order to the world around you. That is true leadership for a man. A man's most important job is to lead his family. So when someone says, or when I say, protect your women, as we don't see anymore, is we see OnlyFans girls and this and that, career women, bossy girls, whatever. When I say protect women, it's not about being controlling over them or patronizing or whatever. It's actually a serious duty based on reality, and we've seen this pretty much just go down the drain. Women are the heart of the home, and they create culture and virtue, and they're the ones who raise the next generation. So their safety and well-being are ultimately the most important foundation for any civil society. Again, we've lost most of this. A civilization that doesn't protect its women just really has no future. Now, one must understand that the bond between men, like fathers, sons, grandfathers, grandsons, uncles, nephews, and all that, this is really the framework upon which tradition and knowledge are shared between generations. So, in other words, a man's responsibility starts with protecting his family, but it doesn't end there. It extends to the wider circle of men in their life, as I just said. This bond between men is how traditions and values are passed down. It's not just about spending time together or hanging out or something like that. It's mentorship. For example, a boy doesn't automatically become a man just by getting older. He needs to be taught, and he needs to be challenged, and he needs to be guided by the older men in his life. He needs to understand what it means to keep his word, because a man's word is everything. He needs to learn how to handle hard, difficult times without complaining and just getting through it. He needs to understand how to provide for others and stand up for what's right, even if it's not popular. So this connection between generations of men is how honor gets passed down. That's what I'm trying to display here. It's all about honor. So when these are passed down throughout life, it's how a grandfather's bravery in some war that's older than his grandson is passed down to his grandson. It's how a father's strong work ethic becomes his son's hard work ethic. So we see nowadays, like when these bonds break, which is ever so common, like when fathers aren't present, or when generations are turned against each other, like, oh, my grandpa's bad because something like this, unless he's legitimately bad, of course. But when these bonds are broken, or when positive male relationships are dismissed as patriarchal or old-fashioned, like we hear so much nowadays, society starts to fall apart, like we see nowadays. How many times you scroll on YouTube and it's someone bitching, it's someone complaining, we can't buy a house, we can't do this and that, and I've done videos on this stuff, but really this is where it all starts. This just becomes a time when men are really just boys in a man's body. They're easily swayed, they're easily manipulated, and they have no real purpose. Now, stick with me here. I know some of you have some ADHD TikTok brains. Totally understandable. I'm not going to lie. That algorithm knows how to get you. But stick with me here. Now, actually, speaking of ADHD TikTok brains, this actually leads me to one of the most important principles here, and that's sacrificing now for a better future. This is how rich people think. They, like actual rich people with a lot of money in normal modern times. They don't plan for tomorrow, they plan for years ahead. And the saying, plant a tree whose shade you'll never sit under, but for future generations to sit under that shade, will just perfectly capture what I'm trying to say. This modern thinking, the egalitarian philosophy of me, it's all about me first, ditch your family. Of course, there's outlying considerations, like if your family's actually bad, like to say they're a bunch of gang members and shit. But really, that's an outlier. This mindset of me is selfish and it's short sighted. This kind of thinking is a dead end, and it's just going to waste your time. It's going to waste your son's time. It's going to waste your money. It's going to waste your son's money, and it's going to waste potential. And it really has no concern for the future. A real leader and a real man, a true man, thinks differently. They will see life as a bigger story that spans generations ahead of him. Like the hard work, the boring job, the sacrifices he makes aren't just for himself or his immediate family. It's actually an investment into a future that that man will never see because he won't even be around anymore. Like building wealth and security, it's not to buy fancy things or like a faster car or something like that. Of course, treat yourself, but you get what I'm saying here. But this is actually so his children and his grandchildren aren't burdened by generational debt like we see with college and houses and cars nowadays. But he does this so his wife will be provided for, his future children, his grandchildren, his whatever. It goes all the way down. They're going to have a strong foundation to build upon. We've seen this with the Rothschild. It started with one guy. Then he gave his business to his 6 sons and so on and so forth. Now, this leads me to what is really the ultimate rejection of selfish individualism that defines our age. Once you adopt this mindset, you're going to get rid of this shit. This is a declaration that man's life is not his own. It belongs to his ancestors and whose sacrifices made his existence possible, and to his descendants whose potential is his trust. His descendants are his responsibility still. True fulfillment in life does not come from chasing pleasure or hedonism or experiences. It comes from doing your duty. The man finds purpose in being reliable and strong and rooted in his family line. This stability is going to make a foundation where good things like love and learning, art, faith, and stuff like that can actually grow. And we've lost a lot of this with modern times. For example, how many of you go on YouTube and there's 10 million people making videos about how Gen Z can't afford anything, they don't have jobs, their future is gone. Well, this is really how we ultimately reverse this. Now, hold on, stick with me here, okay? Now, leading a family is like, let's say it's like leading a nation. It's just on a smaller scale. If a man can't lead his own family well, he has no right to lead a country. The job here is the same, though. Protect the people from danger, keep the country strong from within, and create a place where they can succeed and manage resources wisely for the future and be fair and make those tough decisions and stuff like that. But a leader who ignores this duty and uses his own power to get rich or help other countries, sound familiar, while his own people struggle is just a traitor. It's ultimately the opposite of being honorable. Now, this brings me to where the inner qualities that make leadership possible. These are the virtues that have been ridiculed and scorned as old-fashioned, patriarchal, or whatever in a modern world that prefers a consumer to men of principle. Now, first and foremost, a man only has his word. In an era of contracts, lawyers, endless loopholes, a way to scam, a man's word seems like nothing, but actually it is everything. A man's word is a measure of his integrity and his honor. It's the bond between others that allows people to trust him. When a man says he will do something, it's as certain as if it were already done. This reliability of a man's word is really just the glue. It's the fabric that holds families and communities together. It means that his wife can trust his vows, his children can trust his promises, and his business partners can trust his handshake. Without all of this, leadership is just fraudulent. Now, next is courage. This is not the absence of fear, because everybody has fear. Everybody gets scared sometimes. It's natural, after all. But it's just the will to act rightly in spite of that fear. Courage is the courage to physically defend one's family from harm. It's the moral courage to stand up for what's right and what's true and good in the face of being ridiculed by others. Spiritual courage is someone who's going to make tough and unpopular decisions because it's right, not because it's the easy way out. Courage is something that will endure the silent, day-to-day pain of going to work, clocking in and out, and providing without expecting someone to praise you. And lastly, there's honor. Honor is how you show your personal code of conduct to the world. It's just a quiet strength that earns respect naturally. An honorable man understands his own values and also his limits. Treat everyone respectfully. That's what an honorable man does, especially those who can't defend themselves, like the weak and the ill and the elderly. He treats others with the respect that's owed to them, especially the weak and the vulnerable. The conduct of an honorable man is guided by a deep sense of right and wrong that transcends man-made laws. The honorable man performs charitable deeds not because he wants to look good on social media, but because it's his duty to help those within his sphere of influence who have fallen on hard times. Charity is really just a natural overflow of strength. The strong have a duty to protect the weak. And this still extends even when that weak person, like maybe not weak, but let's just say your daughter, for example, doesn't like it. Or maybe even society doesn't like it. You have to step up. Sorry, daddy's home. You're going to have to do shit you don't like because I know what's best for you. This kindness is a natural part of being strong. Like I said, it's a responsibility to look after the weak. Now, to wrap all of this up, all of this is just really the larger part of your accountability because you're just preparing for your next part of your life, even if you die. This life is just practice for what comes next. God is the final judge of a life well lived. Doing the good deeds or the honorable conduct, protection of the innocent, faithfully providing for your family, taking care of people who are in need, it's kind of like a worship. It is a form of worship. It's an answer to God when He asks you, what did you do with the strength and the life that I gave you? So to sum all of this up, this leadership that I speak of is kind of like a philosophy. This is really just me telling you to reject shallow, me, self-centered narrative of modernity and embrace a role that is both ancient but also necessary for eternal life. This is the call to be a man, to be the protector, the provider, the mentor, and the rock. To see yourself as a link in the great chain of men in your familial line, who is responsible for honoring those who came before and making sure that those coming after him will be okay. This is how cultures are built. This is how civilizations endure and last. It starts not with politics, which we talk about all the time on this channel, but it starts with a personal one. A single man in his own home deciding to keep his word and to work hard, protect his loved ones, and to plant a tree whose shade that he will never enjoy. That is how we win. That is the victory that makes all other victories possible. All right, guys. Sorry if that was kind of hard to follow along. Took me quite some time to be able to verbally display this in a manner that was easily digestible. That's all for me today. God bless you and your families. America first and only. Jimmy Talks out.